Welcome back for another edition of CEO Angles. I'm Ed Kelly, and I am thrilled to welcome my special guest, the recently named President and CEO of NAMIC, Neil Alldredge.
Thanks, Ed. Glad to be with you today.
As you assume your new role, the economy appears to be emerging from the COVID-19 pandemic. How is NAMIC coping during this phase of the pandemic? Are things getting back to normal?
Well, we're approaching normal, I think. Maybe normal's in sight of here is the way maybe I would characterize it. We have had a couple of in-person events, so that's a good positive step for us. We have our annual convention coming up later on in late September. For now, all systems are go with that, and we intend to pursue normal if we can.
As you may know, AAIS was involved in a proof of concept using the open IDL blockchain platform to conduct a data call seeking information on BI losses related to COVID. NAMIC's position on the pandemic-related BI calls is clear. Can you walk us through your thoughts on this issue, and where are we in the debate over BI coverage?
Sure. It seems as though we've passed one threshold of the debate, and that is the states have pretty well decided not to pursue any sort of retroactive, forced BI mandated coverage where maybe there was some uncertainty around policy language. Though it very much is an active issue in the courts. We've got about 2,000 lawsuits right now in state and federal courts on the BI coverage issue. About 500 of those have reached their initial stage of some kind of resolution. Generally speaking, insurers are faring pretty well in those. About 450 of that 500 have ruled in favor of the insurer's perspective that coverage was not available. But as you know, not everybody's policy language was maybe as clear as it could be. And in some of those cases, the courts are finding coverage for some insurers as it relates to BI coverage. But by and large, we think we will generally prevail in these cases and that most of the language is clear. Now, there's going to be a whole nother debate about a longer term solution that may be taking place in Congress. That will take a while to evolve. There's certainly nothing imminent on that front.
Okay, well, thanks for that update. I imagine we'll be talking about it for some time. Another issue that NAMIC's been very vocal about is social inflation. How is it affecting insurers, and what can be done about it?
Sure, it's the phenomenon that many of you are familiar with of nuclear verdicts, they're called, where a jury comes back with a verdict that is sort of out of proportion to the norm. Generally, these cases are always sort of bad facts, terrible tragedies have happened, and there usually is fault at play here too. But the verdicts have become exceedingly large and not in proportion to the actual economic damage that may have occurred. And then you multiply that over the number of cases that maybe are at play in a particular state, and you just see this phenomenon of costs going up for everybody. So insurers are pursuing a number of remedies to this. At NAMIC, we've been working with Gen Re on a joint effort to look at some possible solutions. Also, there's issues around things like litigation lending. That phenomenon is at play in social inflation. And so we're pursuing areas that would limit the ability for litigation lending to take place. We're making some progress, but I suspect this is going to be with us for a while.
I agree. Well, another area of common interest between NAMIC and AAIS is flood insurance. We've been working with Munich Re and others to shore up policy forms. I know NAMIC has partnered with Munich Re on this issue as well, addressing the protection gap. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Yeah, we did partner with Munich Re to look at some of the issues around the flood insurance program and flood insurance generally speaking. Obviously, we all know this continues to be an issue of both the private market and the federal program not necessarily being in sync. It starts with a lot of people just don't realize that their homeowner's policy doesn't cover flood insurance. And so we wrestle with those issues a lot. But the flood problem is not one that is diminishing. It's actually increasing in terms of its frequency. We need to do a better job as a country investing in mitigation. There's some positives in the recently passed bill that just passed the Senate this week on the infrastructure program. There's some good flood mitigation details and funding in that legislation. It's not yet law, but there's some good steps there. It's a comprehensive problem that's going to take everybody working together to solve. And we will face at the end of September another deadline of when the current reauthorization expires. So there'll be the normal end of the program dance that goes on in Congress that we hope we can get it extended again. But you know our track record there. Sometimes we let that program expire. Sometimes we get a short-term extension. Sometimes we get a longer-term one. So hopefully we can be successful in getting a longer-term extension this time around.
Great. Well, I'll be looking forward to seeing where that infrastructure bill comes out, especially around your comments regarding hopefully addressing some flood insurance concerns. Growth is also a concern for insurers. Looking ahead, where do you see the greatest opportunities for NAMIC members?
Sure, yeah, everybody looks to grow, of course. It's interesting, we see growth in a couple of ways in our membership right now. There's new product lines that are being considered. A lot of the growth, though, comes from what have been in our side of the sector, the mutual property casualty industry. It's a very personal lines heavy area for the member companies, generally speaking. And many of them are trying to grow into the commercial line side of things. And they're pursuing new opportunities there. I was just talking with a member company yesterday, a large national writer actually, who's a very traditional personal lines heavy company. And this year, for the first time, their commercial lines book of business is actually going to exceed their personal lines book of business. And we see that in other areas, and even our smaller members are looking at commercial opportunities to grow. So that's something that I think you'll see the sector focus on and consider us continue to see new opportunities, new products that come along. The flood insurance issue we just mentioned, there could be opportunities for growth there where private insurers consider new options. So there's new lines of business all the time.
Are there any other initiatives or issues you'd like to see NAMIC tackle during your time as CEO?
Sure, NAMIC ourselves need to grow. We'll focus on adding new members. We've had tremendous growth as an association over the last several years, and we'll continue to build on that. We'll continue to provide the advocacy services that everybody expects us to do, but we're looking for some new projects as well. Data services is something that we're looking at. Member companies are always in need. It seems to be everybody wants more data and new data and different kinds of data, and that's something we're going to explore and partnerships with some other organizations. But at the end of the day, NAMIC will be a familiar organization to everybody. We'll serve the interests of the mutual industry and work with organizations like yours to find good partnerships to help the industry move forward.
Fantastic. Hey, Neil, I want to thank you again for taking the time today and sharing your thoughts with our members. Looking forward to seeing you in person at your annual conference later this year. Thank you very much.
Look forward to it, Ed. Take care.
If you'd like to know more about any of the topics discussed in this edition of CEO Angles, don't hesitate to reach out to your AAIS engagement manager. Until next time, this is Ed Kelly with CEO Angles.